This video will demonstrate how to work the Kitchener stitch on the tubular bind off with the stitches separated between two needles. So I've worked several rows of double knitting here, and I'm ready to graft these stitches together. And to do that, I'm going to separate them onto two needles by slipping the knit stitches and letting the purl stitches drop to the back. And then I will go back and pick up those purl stitches from the other side. I'm working with wool here, and I'm not too concerned about these stitches hanging, as wool is pretty stable. So I have 6 stitches on this front needle. I will turn the work over and I will pick up 6 stitches from the other side. And in doing so, I'm going to make sure that my legs are oriented correctly. That one was turned around a little bit. I'm going to slip these on, make sure that the rightmost leg is on the side of the needle toward me. Okay, I think I have all those picked up correctly. So I have 6 on this side and 6 on this side. To start the grafting, I'm going to work off the right tips of the needles. My seaming yarn is going to come from the right edge, from the back stitches. I have a contrasting color seaming yarn so that you can see the paths that the stitches take. And I've measured off about 7 times the width of the fabric to make sure that I have enough seaming yarn to do it. You don't want to run short on your seaming yarn. There are a couple of setup actions that you need to take to get started. You go into the first stitch on the front needle as if to purl and pull your yarn through. Go into the stitch on the back needle as if to knit and pull your yarn through. You'll come forward to the front to start the sequence. Couple things we want to remember. We always want the yarn to travel underneath the needles. We don't ever want to bring our yarn over the needles. And we don't want to pull our seaming yarn tight. We want to leave our stitches a little bit loose, and then we can tighten them up later and adjust them. We want them to be the same size as the neighbor, so we're not pulling the seaming yarn tight. Alright, for the sequence, we start on the front needle, we go into the first stitch as if to knit, and we pull it off. We go into the second stitch as if to purl, and we leave it on. Pull your yarn through. Go into the first stitch on the back needle as if to purl and drop it off. Go into the second stitch on the back needle as if to knit and leave it on. And pull your yarn through. Adjust your yarn so it stays on top of your piece but underneath your needles. Alright, so that's the sequence. We'll start again. From the front, go into the first stitch on the front needle as if to knit, pull it off, go into the second stitch as if to purl, leave it on. Go into the first stitch on the back needle as if to purl, drop it off, go into the second stitch on the back needle as if to knit and leave it on. So the mantra is knit off, purl off, knit on, starting with the front needle. Here we go. Knit off, purl on. Purl off, knit on. Knit off, purl on. Purl off, knit on. Knit off, purl on. Purl off, knit on. And you can continue across your piece until you come to the last 2 stitches, one on the front and one on the back, and then you finish that off by knit off, purl off, knit off, purl off. And you can take a look at your stitches and you can tidy them up. You can see how they took the path of a knit stitch. And if they're a little bit sloppy, you can start with your tapestry needle, and don't be afraid to manipulate your stitches to do what you want them to do. That's part of knitting. Fuss with that. Okay, so there's your Kitchener stitch, a nice tubular edge that matches a tubular cast on.